The food you see here looks good and probably smells and tastes good as well. These dishes have something in common. They all include leafy greens. Keep in mind that a contaminated food can taste good, smell good, and even look good, yet make you sick if it is contaminated. One of the many consumer demands is to have safe food, and it is our job to provide safe food. In this food safety orientation video, we're going to learn together basic food safety rules that you need to follow at all times while you are working with leafy greens. You just started working for this company, so before you handle leafy greens, you need to go over this orientation training. The first thing we need to be aware of is our personal hygiene, which stops being personal when we handle the food that others are going to eat. Note that this employee is following proper hygiene practices by wearing clean clothes, gloves, proper outer garments, and a hair restraint. We must shower daily and show up clean to work. We must wear clean clothes daily. Shorts, tank tops, or torn clothing are not acceptable in the leafy greens fields. Good personal hygiene and cleanliness are essential to prevent the introduction and spread of microbes in leafy green production environments, like the one in which we work. Jewelry is not allowed in the field. Some companies do allow a plain basic wedding ring, but it must always be covered by a glove. We also can't bring any personal items to the field or close to the harvesting equipment. Before starting work, we must store any personal items in the designated area. We are almost ready to step into the field, but before starting work, do not forget to wear protective garments specific to your job tasks and responsibilities. If you are harvesting value-added product, you need to wear an apron and arm sleeves. Your supervisor will show you how to correctly use your protective clothing. Put on a hairnet, cap, or bandana to cover your hair. If you wear a hairnet, make sure you cover all your hair and ears. If you have a beard, you need to wear a beard net. Keep in mind that when you leave your work area, you need to leave the protective garments at the ranch's designated location. This is especially important. You can't eat, drink, or smoke out of the designated areas. It's essential to eat, drink, or smoke only in designated areas. One more thing, spitting in the field is strictly prohibited. And remember to wash your hands when you are going back to work. If you have to go to the restroom, always use the restrooms provided by the company. Throw the soiled toilet paper in the toilet bowl, not in the garbage or on the floor. Now we have to talk about the most important individual practice that helps to minimize the risk of leafy greens contamination: hand washing. Hand washing must be a regular activity throughout the day to keep your hands clean. Wash your hands regularly. Here are some hand washing requirements. Wash your hands before putting on your gloves and starting work. Additionally, you must also wash your hands after doing the following: using the restroom. Keep in mind that this is the most critical hand washing opportunity. Taking a break or eating lunch, or coughing or sneezing in your hands. And lastly, you should wash your hands thoroughly any time that they could have become soiled or contaminated. It is important to learn the correct procedure for properly washing hands at work. A quick soak or wetting your hands without soap is not good enough. Do you think those hands were washed properly? The answer is no. There are 6 steps for washing your hands correctly. Let's go over each hand washing step. Step 1. Wet your hands with water. In Step 2, you apply soap to your hands. Step 3. Lather and scrub your hands and arms for about 20 seconds. Do not forget the areas under your nails and between your fingers. In Step 4, you need to rinse thoroughly with water. In Step 5, you dry your hands using a clean paper towel. And finally, Step 6. If required for your job, put on your gloves. Please note that some companies might require their employees to use hand sanitizers after hand washing and before putting on gloves. There is still another area that concerns us that is important to prevent leafy greens contamination: your health. If you have any of the following signs or symptoms, do not work around or handle leafy greens: diarrhea, hacking cough, fever, vomiting, jaundice, sore throat with fever, or an infected sore or wound. Please, if you are sick, inform your supervisor. If you have a cut or open sore or wound, you should report it to your supervisor before you start working. If you cut your hand or finger while harvesting leafy greens, tell your supervisor about the incident so he can provide you with further instructions on what to do. You will also have to properly dispose of any product that comes in contact with blood, pus, or any other body fluid. Let's move on. There are several practices in the field that could cause cross-contamination of leafy greens. Preventing this from happening is part of our job. Cross-contamination is the transfer of harmful substances, materials, or microbes from something dirty to something clean, in our case, to the leafy greens we work with. Cross-contamination of leafy greens can be avoided following some basic rules. Let's take a quick look at some of them. If you have to leave your work area for any reason, such as breaks or going to the restroom, you must always leave your knives and harvest equipment in the provided container with sanitizer until you return to work. Also, clean and sanitize your knives and harvest equipment when your supervisor requires you to do so. And remember to never take your working tools with you when you leave work. Knives and other harvesting equipment must stay at your workplace. Animal hazards are another important source of contamination. If you see an animal hazard in an area to be harvested, report it immediately to your supervisor. Animal hazards include, but are not limited to, skin, feathers, fecal matter, or signs of animal presence. Signs of animal presence may be downed fences, animal tracks in the production block, animal feces, urine, or eaten plants in your working area. Do not harvest any product that comes into contact with fecal matter. Do not harvest any product within 5 feet of contamination, and always be aware of the flagged areas. These represent buffer zones around any animal activity and will help to adequately control or minimize the risk of contamination. Any leafy greens that come in contact with equipment leaks and spills, chemicals, dirt, grease, or oil from a machine must be discarded and the incident immediately reported to your supervisor. Glass or glass containers are not allowed in or on the field borders. If broken glass is found in a leafy greens container, you must throw this product away and report it immediately to your supervisor. Another basic rule is that any product that is harvested and falls or has been in contact with the ground must be left there or properly discarded. And finally, but still very important, is that all of us who enter the ranch or the business property must be an authorized person by the management. If people are visitors, they must check in with a supervisor upon arrival and follow all food safety rules. Let's review the most important points we've covered today. Remember that the main point of this orientation is to teach you the basic activities and rules that must be followed at work to help minimize the risk of leafy greens contamination in the fields. The following summary outlines what we talk about in this video. 1. Our personal hygiene isn't as personal as we think. We must take care of it so that our product is not contaminated from poor personal hygiene practices at work. 2. Protective garments and clothing protects leafy greens, and you must use them correctly. 3. Don't forget to use hairnets, caps, and bandanas for your hair and beard. 4. Eat, drink, and smoke only in designated areas. 5. Use the company toilets and throw soiled toilet paper in the toilet. 6. Don't bring any personal items to your work areas. 7. Jewelry is not allowed in the field. Some companies do allow a plain basic wedding ring, but it must always be covered by a glove. 8. If you're sick, report it to your supervisor and don't work with leafy greens. 9. If you cut yourself, tell your supervisor immediately. All product that have contact with blood must be thrown out. 10. When washing hands, you must follow the 6 steps for proper hand washing. 11. Knives and harvest equipment need to be cleaned and sanitized. 12. If you see an animal hazard in an area to be harvested, report it immediately to your supervisor. Do not harvest a buffered area. 13. Be aware of product contaminated with machinery oil, lubricant, grease, or glass and glass containers. If you find products with this type of contamination, discard them and report the incident to your supervisor for further investigation. 14. If product falls on the ground, leave it there or discard it properly. 15. All visitors to the ranch must check in with the supervisor. Before leaving, we will ask you to sign a letter of commitment that states that you understand all the information presented in this video and that you are committed to follow these important food safety rules on the job. If you have any questions, please ask them to the person that is presenting you this video. Now we know the basic information about how to keep our leafy greens safe. Thanks for being here.